It's nice to be back on that little, nice tropical setting themed board. Yeah, especially true because of how the fact that summer's almost gonna be approaching at some point, mainly by the fact that we've only got about, 2 months for now, until, you know, June starts to arise. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm Pinkie Pie here. Hey, every pony and every brownie and everyone else out there, welcome back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Party for the Nintendo Switch. Previously, in the last weekend, that we did manage to play through the second board in the partner party mode, and by the forms of how the fact that we actually been through Gold Rush Mine. And today, for this entire weekend, is the fact that we're about to be going through the third board in partner party mode, and that will have to be Watermelon Walkabout. So, yes, basically it's just Mega Fruit Paradise, but it might be exactly similar to the forms of Mega Fruit Paradise, but the only difference is that obviously the 2-on-2 based, you know, partner party system. So, even then, let's get this thing to it, and as you can see, that we are playing through these girl players this time around, by the forms of Rosalina, and a teammate for our team, it was Pom Pom. So, because we figure out we can able to actually play as one of the girl players this time around though, because we haven't usually done this since Mario Party Star Rush, or anything like that, probably so. So anyways though, yeah, throw up Watermelon Walkabout. Again, as I mentioned before, it plays exactly like how he did on, you know, Mega Fruit Paradise. The only major difference is obviously the grid-based system. And, second of all is the fact that, well, there is an item shop in this board, but, the only way you can actually get to that, though, is the fact that you need to able to actually land on that happening space. So, yeah, that might be the only differences from here. Even though I have the same issue I have with the forms of Mega Fruit Paradise boards, not to mention, is the fact that, well, personally, I'm not a big fan of island hopping boards like this, especially because if there's a star around here somewhere, oh god, looks like there's gonna be a sand bridge coming up, and please don't tell me that the Goomba might actually join in as well, and I'm guessing it might actually screw us up. Because again, if you have 4 players on that one bridge, then we all fall off, and there's no way we can able to actually go across the bridge. So thanks a lot, Goomba and Monty Mole, for able to not realizing about that stuff. And by the way, with that computer players' teammates this time, is the fact that we are competing against with a, let's just say, a brown-colored character team. Because even then, get it, Monty Mole and Goomba are colored in brown. Yeah, it's probably true, even though there are some whites here and there, but even then, that's besides the point for that part right there. Sorry for the little tongue twisting in the end, folks, because even then, yeah. So a few things I want to explain about this, actually, is the fact that I might actually decide to take a break for, my actual redo Let's Play of Shadow the Hedgehog until, at some point in the 22nd of April, just because of how the fact that at this point in time, after this board is finished, until, like, whenever we get to, like, Monday all the way up to Friday, now I would assuming that Piglet needs to get back into Super Mario Galaxy to able to now do the Super Luigi Galaxy playthrough before, you know, when we do my favorite game of all time when it comes to the Mario Syndrome like this, and that will have to be Super Mario Galaxy 2, but again, until when it gets to the point until the second half of the year. Yeah, I think I was pretty hyped for that as well. But, I'm pretty sure enough though that definitely needs to get into that though. Yeah, because he did manage to done that before, but of course that video's now been, gone forever, just because that we need to able to redo that again. But this time with a much more improvement quality, and especially noticeable with the better sound mixing, departments right there. So anyways though, let's go ahead and get ourselves Daisy as the first ally right there, and, thankfully though, we're now in first place, or in this case, we're now able to actually go first on the turn order system this time, because after about 2 boards of, you know, the partner party, that we sometimes always seem to get, you know, second place, if I recall, but even then, we'll go ahead and, get ourselves, no matter what though, we'll go ahead and get ourselves, Daisy for now, and we'll get ourselves our first item. Yeah, so that way we could able to actually decide to able to, hopefully God forbid, trying to land on that green pipe or anything like that, so able to actually make our way to our next spot or anything. So Because again, that you need to be extremely accurate when it comes to like landing on that happening space most of the time right there. Because if you really like try to proceed, even with the star spaces is actually on a different island, well, one exception mind you, well, you have to keep on like landing on that until you're able to actually go for like island hopping. Because again, that the same issue I have with the forms of the Mega Fruit Paradise is the fact that once those sand bridges, once the sand bridge, sorry for that little bit of a tangent right there, when it starts to crumble, much like how it does it in Mega Fruit's Paradise board, it will not respawn at all until you're able to actually either restart the board, or in this case, just try to able to actually like, you know, you get the idea for that point. So a few things we could explain about this actually is the fact that recently, about the fact the matter is though, is that there's quite a lot of stuff that's been happening so far when it comes to gaming and stuff, and there's also some other pickups that we like to mention about this kinds of stuff like this. But before we get to that, however, though, do we get ourselves our new minigame for once? Well, for the most part, I think we've played most of it though. Well, apart from the fact that we can now able to do with Track Harder for about I think this is the second time playing this. I'm not exactly sure because, again, it's been quite a few while to be able to actually get back to this though. So it looks like Pinkie Pie is now going to be able to do this mini game for her turn now. So, oh, my hoof is actually getting pretty achy, but you got there in the end. Yeah, I could admit to that though. So not only by the forms of something is crazy is happening when it comes to gaming community, but it's also about the fact that if you're the brony out there, by the forms of the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the final season, how the fact that we actually did mention about the fact that we did recently watch the premiere of the Season 9 final season premiere, which once again it's 2 parts, just like in the forms of how it does it in Season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 8, because 7 doesn't include the 2 parts premiere. So, yeah, to make it a little bit more different from whatever it used to be, though. So, but even then, that's after we actually did watch ourselves the 2 parts of the premiere episode of, you know, in Season 7 from the beginning, I found this to be one of the best premiere episodes in the entire My Little Pony Friendship is Magic show itself. Because, well, we're not going to spoil any that much detail, because if you those who have not, watched it yet, especially if the bronies, you're the bronies out there, then obviously I'm not going to spoil things too much for you, because even then, I'll let you find out for yourselves, so, but I digress though. So even then though, I think this is actually one of the best, premiere episodes in the entire show so far for me though, or in this case, for the majority of the time, easily one of the best premiere episodes of the entire show right now, because even then, well, we're not going to say so far anymore, because we actually on to the finale season at this point, so, but recently about the fact that at this point is that episode 3 we're able to actually start to shine until at some point during the likes of this weekend, so we're able to actually mention more on that whenever we're able to get to that point right there, if we continuously playing for this game in particular. Specifically, if we go for like, I would say, we're actually on a halfway point of the Partner Party already, and then once Partner Party is done, then the next mode we could able to actually show off is, I would classify for saying River Survival is up next, because, well, it's going to be a lot of replayabilities to deal with, you know, River Survival mode. Yeah, especially after that, then we can able to move on to, Soundstage next. And after that, we can able to actually move on to the mini games modes. And after that, then we can able to move on to I would say by the forms of Toad's Rec Room. And after that, it will be I would say the other extras here and there, like for instance the sticker system, which we'll explain more on that later before you're able to get to that point. But even then, we got a lot of ways to go, especially because of how the fact that it won't be a possibility that we could able to actually finish this Let's Play before E3 is about to be able to approach. And then once that's been happening, then we can able to actually discuss more onto that. Well, we're probably not going to mention more details about this, because obviously that we're almost practically done with the forms of the actual party boards of the game. mainly the Mario Party mode and the Partner Party. So even then, now time for Maps of Glory. So even then, we played this last time, and since we did manage to conquer the entire victory last time, so let's see how we can able to conquer that again. Well, it all depends, because of how the fact that you need to deal with the roulette dice block, or the actual roulette block. Excuse me. Alright, so it's not too bad for that first start anyway. And another thing is worth mentioning though, oh, Pom Pom, really? Now you're gonna give them a little bit of a second chance here. But I digress though, we're not gonna give up on this just yet. But I digress, now on to round 3, and let's see how many we can get. We got 18, and looks like they got 15 right there, so this might be pretty close. But even then though, we're off by 3 so far, so we'll just essentially try to take those down. So let's see. Obviously, domination victory from the start, and it looks like... Oh, we ended up in a draw! Oh, great. Looks like all of our puzzle pieces has now been taken down, so whatever. But nonetheless, though, we still get 5 coins as it is, though, still. But, you know, I can assume that sometimes that computer players attempt to go, like, pretty good and pretty accurate at the same time when it comes to the actual timing aspect with this. But, usually it's kind of a little bit more by, odd situations, I feel like. But I digress, though, so... few things I want to explain about this actually is the fact that we like to point things out with the forms of the actual pickups that we actually did manage to able to discuss upon first. Recently we've actually got ourselves not only 1, not 2, but 3 new pickups for ourselves for today. Or in this case, to be exactly, later time in April. So first off, we actually did manage to able to got ourselves, well, we got ourselves 1 PlayStation 2 game, and 1 PlayStation 1 game, and 1 Dreamcast game. Because it's been a while since we actually got ourselves the Dreamcast game ever since Soul Calibur. I think that was back in 2018 actually. Yeah, because of how the fact that we like to try out the first Soul Calibur game on the Dreamcast version. And it's actually a really great port of the forms of the arcade version, at least as far as I already know about this already. So, and aside from that, though, there's not much else to really think about. So let's go from, what should we mention first? Let's go for the PlayStation 1 first. The game that we did got for the PlayStation 1, specifically the physical version, and that will have to be Rayman. And because of this, though, technically we've already got Rayman on the PlayStation 1 already, due to the PlayStation 3 download. But I've decided able to get the physical version as well, just because, well, it was a pretty cheap price as well, beyond that. And, especially noticeable how the fact that we always attempt to really enjoy most of these Rayman games from now on these days now, because even then, that we did manage to pick up ourselves, Rayman Origins, both versions, so that one we can able to play it for ourselves, and the other one we might actually do a Let's Play on that, but I'm not exactly sure when, because obviously there's quite a lot of titles able to play through. Yeah, especially noticeable with how the fact that we are still, concentrating on the forms of, some certain Let's Plays from now on, though. And I do apologize if my voice has actually got a little bit more croaked up these days, because, well, I just somehow cannot even speak properly. So I must admit, though, I do apologize for that. Oh, wow, they got a very great start for this point here. Yeah, as far as I can see, about how, Goomba and Monty Mole did get ourselves a pretty good head start. But we still conquered anyway. Yeah, because, we did manage to able to get nice fast reflexes on that particular puzzle pieces right there, and sure enough, we dominated, basically. So, anyway, with the forms of Rayman for the PlayStation 1, that, we're actually trying to get ourselves the Sega Saturn version of that game as well, but, the thing is about the Sega Saturn version of Rayman is actually pretty pricey compared to the forms of the PlayStation version, just because, well, as far as I'm aware, because the Sega Saturn didn't sell that well compared to its competition, the PlayStation. Yeah, back in the day that is, because even then though, that's, Alright, so for the majority of the time, why do I have to bring up that item box section again? But what we meant to do is the fact that we need to use the Daisy dice block from now on, though. Just in case the fact that we can able to get some movements here. in this case, we get 5 and 1, so that makes up to 6. So, do we get something out of it though? Specifically, the next ally, which is Luigi. No, it may not look like it, because even then, much like the ones and how it does it, I had the same issue with, by the forms of that particular mode, in, Bloom Bash mode, in Mario Party Star Rush, in that one map, why, you know the zigzag map? Yeah, about that. That's how the fact of the matter is, though, is that you really can't able to actually stop at the edge of the actual zigzag formation of that map. And as a result, though, you have to deal with the limited amount of numbers you have to able to move around from. And that can get pretty annoying, especially because of how the fact that, well, the only thing that makes this version a little bit annoying compared to the forms of Mega Fruit Paradise, which I give that version of that board some credit for, about the fact that you can able to actually decide to able to go whenever you want to go. But the thing is about this, for this particular version of this board this time, how the fact of the matter is, though, is that you need to able to, like, how do I describe it? Oh, really, Goomba? No, you decide to steal our coins from us. Whatever. But hey, at least we can able to actually get more coins, especially because we can able to deal with, Juice Box. And I think we've already played this before, actually, Stephen, and there was no, commented on that either, so, but I digress, let's get this thing to it. So yeah, the annoying part about the forms of the Watermelon Walkabout this time around, though, is the fact that there's quite a lot of fences around here, and as a result, we can't go, like, completely, like, walk around, even with how the fact that the fences has been blocking off, and as a result, though, you need to go all the way around until you're able to actually make it to the right path, which even then, though, sometimes this can be a busy work as such. Yeah, but it can be pretty annoying in some cases, though, but I digress. So, yeah, that was it, basically, for, the actual, like, mentioning about the forms of Mega Fruit Paradise, or especially with, Watermelon Walkabout. It's just basically just, Mega Fruit Paradise, but some annoying parts are still present here, like, you need to still do the island hopping, as well as that really annoying gimmick about the forms of that Bluebird Bridge, which we'll get to that eventually. But even then, though, when we get to that point, however, though, hopefully we need to get ourselves Luigi as our next ally. Well, depending on the forms of the actual dice rolls and stuff, which can be very, you know, random at times. I'm gonna admit it, though, straight off the bat. But even then, though, let's just go ahead and use the Peeper Bell. So even then, though, just in case that we can able to let the other opponents or the other opponent team can able to actually get their coins being taken. Well, unfortunately, we don't able to get that coins to begin with, so, but oh well, though. So anyway, so we'll go ahead and use the Rosalina's dice block for now, and it looks like Pom Pom, she's gonna be stuck in on that first island for the longest amount of time so far. And we'll go ahead and get ourselves the 7, so even then, do we able to actually get to Luigi? Yeah, as you can see, that we can't go from here, though. So even then, we need to figure out a different pathway we can able to decide to go. Yeah, that could be pretty annoying in some cases, so even then, we'll go through here, and this is the most annoying part about this board, is the fact that if you're expecting to believe, but the fact that if you really God forbid not to land on that happening space on the Mario Party version of Mega Fruit Paradise, now we have the most annoying gimmick right there, that is always at that particular exact spot, that how the fact of the matter is, though, is that if you get onto the white area of that particular timing gauge, basically what happens is that you can no longer continue, and as a result, just like in Mega Fruit Paradise, it takes you back to the beginning of the board. And let me tell you that it will be kind of annoying, because even then, though, that if you expect it to able to be safe, but the game, or the actual white part is actually way too big, I feel like, compared to the forms of how it does it in the Domino Ruins kind of level, just because of how the fact that it makes it a little bit more safer and easy and simple. But not so much in here, though, because you always get a chance to able to get into that white area, so that means you'll be get kicked out and what have you. So that can get pretty annoying at times. But even that, though, overall, this is generally still is one of my least favorite boards of the game. It's not that terrible or anything, it's just as kind of frustrating, though, sometimes, especially with the when you know that start space was actually on that one of these island hopping you have to go for. Well, sometimes it's all about, you know, just trying to get to there. So even then, that's going to be a little bit more of a pain in the bum to able to actually go for this part. So, but even then, that's besides the point right there, so. But I digress. The next game we actually did picked up, and that was the forms of a, as I said before, the one Dreamcast game that we've actually got, and that will have to be Rayman 2: The Great Escape. Because technically speaking, we've actually now got 3 versions of Rayman 2: The Great Escape. Because generally speaking, we've got ourselves the first version of that game was actually on the 3DS version, despite the 3DS version does seem to run kind of like the Dreamcast version, but the difference is the frame rate is actually a bit lower compared to the superior Dreamcast version, because, yeah, that's as far as I can go for that point. And we still pretty much stuck on the Century of the Stone and Fire, because even though that level's pretty tough. And then this is what I've managed to stop playing Rayman 3D at this point, because whenever I activate the 3D on, for whatever reason, it just makes me felt, like, extremely sick. Like, one time that we did manage to play that game in 3D mode, and what happens is, I got thrown up in the later days down the road. Especially when it gets to the point where, as far as I've noticed something, is that you did tell me back in the day that you got, thrown up before Mario Kart 7 came out. Yeah, bizarrely enough though, but even then though, that's just a little bit of a long time ago situation or anything, so... But anyways, though, let's go ahead and, why do we still select that option again with the actual item slots? I kinda wish if the game decides to able to let us choose the dice block mode, not just with the item slots, though. Yeah, no, that's the only tiny little bit nitpicking right there, but I digress. So, do we get a chance to get into that pipe right there? It may look like it, because we actually get into here. So hopefully we can able to bypass for that blooper bridge again, well, depending on the actual luck, but even then, we'll find things out by then. And also we can able to hopefully go for a bit trying to get ourselves our second ally, which is Luigi, but even then, it looks like Pom Pom really seems to love the lucky spaces all the time here. Yeah, because I can tell, because we need to get ourselves like several items, but the majority of the time it's gonna be just make the coins rain around you, so... I think it's going to be the most calming event at this point in time, because it always reminds me like New Super Mario Bros. 2 almost, but the only difference is that, well, it's just a Mario Party game, so not a typical platformer or anything like that, but that's besides the point. So yeah, as far as we played, and also we actually own the PlayStation 2 version, known as Rayman Revolution, aka Rayman 2: The Great Escape, which is basically exactly the same game, but the difference here is the fact that the PS2 version does retains the giant hub world. Yeah, and I think that's the only noticeable difference, like going from one level to another, you need to go for that hub world system, but oh, sorry about that. Anyways though, but of all the 3 versions that we've got for Rayman 2: The Great Escape, I still consider that the Dreamcast version is the best version of all of them, because, well, for one thing, the actual frame rate is actually a hell of a lot better, and the visuals do look very, very great as well, even with the actual lighting, and I just cannot wait to able to actually finally get on my chance for myself, for able to playing through my definitive way playing Rayman 2: The Great Escape, which is the Dreamcast version. Although we could have get ourselves the N64 version or the PlayStation version, but the comparison between these versions, that especially with the graphical standpoints, I don't think that didn't go quite well compared to the superior Dreamcast version in my opinion. Especially noticeable with that awful Nintendo DS version known as Rayman DS, as a launch title for that system, and especially noticeable with I would say the iOS version, while it did manage to run quite well, what I've heard, but 3D platformers doesn't really fit well with the touchscreen support, so even then, generally speaking, that's as far as we can able to think about the iOS version. But I don't know if that version exists anymore, but we'll find things out for ourselves, so... But I digress. And the third and the final game we did manage to pick up, and now see forms of the PlayStation 2 game, now will have to be by the forms of Sonic Gems Collection for the PS2. Well, only exclusively for our country, and especially noticeable for Japan's release as well. Because the reason why we got ourselves the PS2 version of Sonic Gems Collection is the fact that we love to able to replay that compilation again, but this time around though we are playing that on the PlayStation 2, meaning that we can able to actually get ourselves the entire Game Gear Sonic Games collection on the PlayStation 2, so naturally we've actually got all 12 of them at the moment, So generally speaking about the fact that we now finally get some true definitive way experiencing every single Game Gear Sonic titles on the PlayStation 2. Not so much on the original Xbox though, because you know, they only have the first half of that selection due to Sonic Mega Collection Plus release. But on the PlayStation 2 on the other hand though, especially with the Sonic compilations, well, the PlayStation 2 version actually got all of the Game Gear titles on that particular, well, package. Although, generally speaking, it never saw the light of day on the PlayStation 2 for some reason, but even then, it did only get sort of light of day on the, you know, the UK version and the Japanese version. Although we could have potentially trying to get the Japanese version just for the sake of like Sonic CD's European and Japanese soundtrack version, or especially noticeable with the forms of bonus games they included for Sonic Gems collection on a Japanese release. Like for instance, Barrel Knuckle Trilogy, and I believe there's also Bonanza Brothers. And I don't know what's the another game that we're gonna be on about though, but even then, because we haven't exactly looked upon between these versions of the actual game itself, I'm afraid. So, and another noticeable difference is that there's actually a different loading screen on Sonic R game. That's how the fact of the matter is though, is that you can now actually see let's just say a see-through Sonic's head spinning around. I think that's the only noticeable difference with all this loading times and all that stuff, so... But even though that's as far as we can able to say about the details as a result for that part. And do we get ourselves a new record for that part? I don't know, we'll see. And it looks like, I think we have actually, because our previous record, it might be somewhat in 16 point something meters, but even then though, we did manage to guide in the end. Yep, truth be told from that part. And I believe that was pretty much it for the most part though, although apart from the fact that, well, generally speaking, GameCube system does have the ability to able to have every single Sonic Game Gear titles, but only on the Sonic Adventure DX unlockable stuff. Because the only compilation we do have for the first half of the Game Gear collections with, you know, the Sonic game compilations, which is Sonic Gems collection. But for the original Mega Collection, it doesn't have the Game Gear titles, which it makes it pretty obvious. But even then, that as long as you're able to actually continuously unlocking those titles, specifically on Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, then you were able to actually get the entire collection as an alteration. But sometimes though, emblem hunting is not my kind of thing or anything like that. But either way though, that's besides the point right there. Alright, let's hopefully we can able to make it through here. But I get a strong sense of feeling about the fact that if we manage to get screwed over by that stupid gauge system, or in this case the actual spin the wheel type of event, that we once again we might get kicked out. So we'll give this a shot then. Alright, so please, God forbid, no. No! Oh, dang it. We couldn't get that far. Even because it's made matters worse, that it looks like we don't seem to have that much stars to begin with, because we obviously might as well ended up getting stuck of trying to get past for that stupid blooper bridge. Although, because of how the fact that with the first turn didn't go well enough, just because of how the fact that we accidentally broke, you know, in this case we accidentally break the actual sand bridge instantly. So that's kind of annoying though, because if you really desperately want to go after the star or something like that, well, you have to go for that. So yeah, that kind of stinks. Well, as long as you're able to actually restart the entire board again or something. So anyways though, in that case we still have not played a new minigame yet, because even then though, we've played most of it from time to time. And plus, as a result though, with the actual time length in mind, that the actual uploading schedules between these games now is actually going to be a lot more shorter than it used to be. Yeah, well, depending on the forms that the animations can go a little bit more tacked on or anything like that, but either way though, that's besides the point. So another thing worth mentioning though is the fact that with the gaming sources is the fact that recently that Nintendo Labo has been just recently released the virtual reality kit or the VR kit recently, and for the actual reception to that, it's actually pretty interesting. Even way more depth to it than in forms of how it does in the previous kits, because obviously the experience of the virtual reality for the first time ever on a Nintendo console since that terrible commercial failure, which is Virtual Boy. Well, aside from Mario Land Virtual Boy, because that was the only best game on the entire system. Yeah, because of, you know, the actual demonstration of how the fact that with, you know, with the Virtual Boy's, you know, main features about this, like the 3D depth to it, or some kind? Probably so. And, aside from that, though, that, speaking of the you know, the VR kit for Nintendo Labo, that, one thing I forgot to mention on the forms of, in my Let's Play of, Shadow the Hedgehog, that how the fact of the matter is, though, is the fact that these two games were able to support a virtual reality experience, which there are Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Although, as far as I've heard, although, mind you, the actual updates between these two games will be able to be existent until the 25th of April at some time. Yeah, and the only thing that makes it a little bit more of a demonstration than, basically for pretty much any single parts of the virtual reality kits between these two titles is the fact that you can able to actually just see the actual, like, of what is going on in the actual gameplay. And, the only thing I'm a little bit bummed about is the fact that, well, compared to the PlayStation VR, that, you can't actually move around with your hand or anything like that, unlike the PlayStation VR, because the Nintendo Labo's, virtual reality kit is just basically just the actual special, VR goggles or anything like that, and placing the actual Nintendo Switch system inside a cardboard inserts or anything like that. But even then, that's as far as I can really think about this at a time. There's also, like, a whole bunch of kits as well, with the forms of the virtual reality kits, which is obviously, the bird, and especially noticeable with the elephant, and you name the rest. And, it might be pretty interesting to see how the fact that with the virtual reality, experience worked between, you know, Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, but as far as I've noticed, that, you know, you can't able to actually, like, well, you can't usually take control of Mario and Link or anything like that, but even then, it doesn't really show us the actual more details about it yet, but even then, we'll see what happens there. And, I suppose we could mention about more details onto that specific stuff later, about the forms of the actual, like, chaotic moments with, the actual, rumored about, you know, Nintendo Directs, because it still keeps on going, because even then, it did, I think the last time they did that, which is actually by the films at the beginning of the year, because of how the fact that with, you know, it's been about 3 months since, you know, the last Nintendo Direct. Well, to be more exactly, though, 5 months ever since, you know, in September last year Direct, but even then, though, I do suppose we could able to mention about this whenever we get to the later turns of this particular board itself, and once again, we actually got a new record on Tall Order. Yeah, it seems this is actually our second time playing through Tall Order, as far as the actual board itself, or the actual mini-game itself. Sorry for the actual dialogue for this point, folks, because there's not much else I can really talk about this at this point, and it looks like we're on the last 10 turns of this board already.